look. I know. My name is Stuart Burnett. I also go by Spatzilly, and I beat stuttering. And you can too. Now, I still stutter. In fact, if I weren't to make a rhythm of how I'm saying this, I wouldn't be able to say the second word of the title, because that's the toughest letter for me. The letter after A, B, there. So I kind of got into it by going the letter after A, B. So I kind of flowed in. If you stutter, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But if I were just to try to say, I beat stuttering, I got lucky there, but almost didn't have it. But I'm 35 years old, I'm from Canada, I'm from Vancouver, and if I were to watch a video of someone like me saying I beat stuttering, and you can too, and hearing how I talk, I would not believe you. I would actually think you're kind of a joke, and I think you're just trying to make money or something off of me and my stutter. Because I didn't believe when I was a teenager and struggling that I would end up like me. And it's kind of funny to me because my dad also stuttered, and he would always tell me at the dinner table that stuttering was going to be less of a big deal as I got older. I was going to get over it, and it wasn't going to be a big part of my life and all this sort of thing. And I did not believe him, and it pissed me off that he would say that, because I was like, you must not have actually stuttered. I don't hear you stutter like I stutter now. You're not a real stutterer, so yeah, you got over your stuttering, but mine is so much worse, and I'm not going to get over mine. And I stutter just as bad now as I ever have in my life. The physical act of stuttering for me is the same as it's always been. It's just as hard for me to talk. But what's changed is my mentality. And that's what got me over stuttering. And the crazy thing now is I work in communications. And it's like, as a stutterer, who would want to work in communications? Like, that's the last job you'd ever want to have. I actually got my start in journalism, where you just have to call people constantly that you don't know. And you have to introduce yourself, tell them why you're calling, ask them a whole bunch of questions. That was hell. The start of it was absolutely hell. But here I am, 15 years later, 16 years later in my professional career. I've spent 10 plus years in journalism, ran a magazine, worked in communications, in party politics, at a First Nation, and now I work here at the town of Peace River in communications. Loud truck. But also, just the perfect thing. I hiked all the way up this mountain here, thinking, oh yeah, this will be a perfect scenic shot, and I brought my lawn chair up. And then I realized that I switched my camera, and the camera that I brought up didn't have the attachment to go on the tripod, so I couldn't set up the camera. So now I've got the camera on my lawn chair, and I'm like standing down on the edge of a cliff here. So it's not quite what I envisioned, but you just got to pull the trigger at some point. When I was really young, stuttering was not a big deal to me. I kind of knew that I stuttered and that I talked different, like in grades 1 through 5 or 6, but it never really crossed my mind that much. I was just a kid living life, and the girls thought that I was cute, and that's all that really mattered to me. And then something flipped just on a switch in grade 7, and I remember it so vividly. We went to Hawaii for Christmas. It was either Hawaii or Mexico. I forget that part. But I remember suddenly I became self-conscious. I felt it. Like, I suddenly became self-conscious that I stutter and that I talk different from other people. And I'm actually not very good at talking. And when I talk in class, I make a fool of myself. That's what I felt about myself all of a sudden. And from then on, it was just a tank down, man. It must have been some sort of puberty thing coming of age, because I just went down a hill. So in Canada, where I went to school, grade 8 was the first year of high school. So in grade 8, first day of school, awful, right? It's like you've got to introduce yourself in every single classroom. Just saying your name is like the hardest thing on earth. But the day was actually going pretty good. Like I was kind of getting through that first day without having any big stuttering problems, and it was going okay until we got to social studies, and the teacher asked a question, what is the degrees at the equator? And I knew the answer, and I wanted to impress her, and I wanted to impress the rest of my class, so I put up my hand. What a mistake, eh? But so she calls on me, and this is exactly how my answers sounded. Zzz, 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 and I couldn't say zero, and it was like I was playing a musical instrument, right? Like it went on, and I felt, and I can still vividly remember where I was sitting and everything. I felt everyone's heads turn, like who is this guy? Like, and everyone was laughing, and they weren't necessarily laughing to make fun of me, but it doesn't matter, right? It's like, it's awful. And so that was the start of high school, and things were like, life was still kind of okay for me, even though I had become conscious in grade 7 of my stuttering. But it just kept on going down. Every year got worse. Talking in class just got worse and worse. I started not doing homework because I didn't want to have to answer the questions of the homework in class the next day. So if I could just say I didn't do it, or I don't have it, or something that I could actually choke out, right, then I wouldn't have to answer any of the homework questions when they go around the room. Because you know, as a stutterer, like your palms just dripping, like you're creating an ocean on your desk, knowing that, okay, I'm 8th next, so this is the answer that I'm going to have to give. I can't say this word. I'm going to struggle on this word. I can't even start this sentence. You know what that's like. And we also had to take French, and God, I hated French for the same reason. But life just went down and down and down. I ended up quitting sports. I was kind of like in the cool group when I was in like grade 6 and 7 and then a bit of 8, but then I kind of didn't keep up with that because I was too shy and self-conscious, and I didn't really want to talk to new people, so I would just hang out with a couple friends that I felt safe with, while all of my other friends were hanging out with new people. So high school just went down and down. The only thing that I was ever good at in school is writing, English, and I hated oral presentations. I remember when I backed out of one, and my teacher was so sad that I backed out because she knew that it would have been a developmental opportunity for me, but I was just way too nervous. And so I took like chemistry and math and physics in grade 11 and 12, when you get to like choose some of your specialties. And I'm awful at those, but at least in those I'm thinking you don't have to answer a lot of questions, right? You don't have to talk in front of the class. So I struggled through high school. I remember I was at 51% in Math 12. I took the final exam. I got 49%. So I ended the year at 50. And if I hadn't gotten that, I would have had to retake Math 12. That was a close call, but I'm awful at math, physics, chemistry. But life just kept on going down, right? So then I go to college, and I'm actually trying to take some classes that I'm good at, right? English. I'm not good at saying it, but I'm good at writing, right? It's the one thing I'm good at, or the one thing that I was good at then, and confident in then. And I remember I took creative writing, and the worst and best day of my life was when I was 19 years old, and it was a creative writing class at Capilano College. Now it's Capilano University in Vancouver. And we were all going around the room and going to read out what we wrote. And of course, this is impossible for me. This is the scariest thing on earth for me. I'm terrified. And as it kept going person by person and getting closer to me, I was just too scared. I got up. I don't even know if I packed my things. I think I did. And I just left. I didn't say a word. I didn't ask the teacher to leave or anything. I just got up and left, right? That was the one thing I liked in college, is that like you could kind of leave without having to announce it. But I got up. As soon as I was walking through the door, the tears just started pouring, and it was like raining super hard that day, and I just went straight to my car, just pouring tears, like hyperventilating, crying. Then I just cried and cried and cried in my car. One of the funny things that always sticks with me is when I got to my car, there was a note on my windshield criticizing me and calling out that I was like a new driver, like I had the N when you're a new driver, and criticizing how I parked my car. So it was like, that was the cherry on top, man. It's like, okay, I'm already going through the worst thing ever, and I'm also a bad driver. Great, okay. And so I was just crying and crying. I spent a long time crying as just the rain poured down. But then, as that was going on, I had an epiphany. The greatest epiphany of my life. This is like the central thing that has happened in my life. Like everything rotates, or everything circles around this epiphany that I had. Everything is based on this epiphany. And I realize, as long as my heart is beating, I'm still here. I'm still okay. I'm still living. I'm not dead. Okay? So I feel awful. I feel humiliated. I don't feel proud of myself. I don't like myself. But I'm not dead. So I'm not dead. So as long as my heart's beating, I'm okay. So as long as I'm alive, I'm okay. And that really resonated with me. And that was the start of my mental shift, where I started to realize, yeah, stuttering makes me feel awful. Embarrassing myself in front of other people, whether it's at the drive-thru, in a restaurant, at a store, on the phone, at school, wherever it is, it's awful, man. It's humiliating. But it doesn't physically hurt me. I'm not being stabbed. Like, I'm not dying. So if I'm not dying, I could keep on going. And I kind of liken it to walking through a storm or walking through a gauntlet. Okay, I'm getting humiliated, but I could just keep on walking. So I just kept on walking, even though all this pain was coming in. And just because I had that epiphany, and just because I really felt that weight come off of me, that didn't mean that my stuttering was cured or that I wasn't scared to stutter still. It was a long process, but shortly after that, I had a connection because of playing in Little League as a kid, and one of the coaches was a kind of like a bigwig in a big newspaper company that ran a bunch of different newspapers, and he knew that I liked writing, and he had an opening for an internship up in Fort St. John, British Columbia, which is like a 12 to 18 hour drive from Vancouver. Never been there, right? And he called my dad and kind of offered it to me, knowing that I liked writing and he knew me from Little League. And I took it. But just because I had this epiphany doesn't mean that I was, mentally ready to be a reporter. And I always remember before the job started, my mom had driven up with me to help me move to Fort St. John. I was 19, and the day before I was actually starting work, we were sitting in like a grocery store parking lot, and I was just crying because I was terrified of stuttering. It's not about failing at the job. The only thing that mattered in my life was stuttering. I'm sure you know what I mean there. Stuttering was the universe, and everything else was just a tiny little planet, a speck of dust. But stuttering encapsulated everything about my life. And So I was terrified of stuttering and going to this job, and I asked my mom to run me over in the car. Like, I think she asked me if there's anything that she could do. Like, she's crying too because she feels bad for me, and I just want her to run me over. Like, please kill me, please, please, please. But of course she didn't, right? So then the job starts, and I remember the first interview that I had to do. Luckily, I got to do it from home, and I wrote out all my questions. I wrote out all of the words that I was going to ask, like right to like, hi, I am this person. How are you? Can I ask? Like, I wrote the script, right? And I struggled through that thing. I phoned. Probably took me an hour and a half to work up the courage just to make the phone call. But knowing that my editor needed me to do it, right? And I phoned. I stuttered like hell through it. Like, it was a brutal call. When I finally hung up the phone at the end, I think I cried, or I just felt awful. But I did it. And then I did it again and again and again and again, thousands and thousands of times. And it wasn't easy. Every time was awful, especially working in those open offices in journalism where you answer the phone in front of everybody else. I hate that, man. And I still hate it. I hate open offices for that reason. Now, when I go to jobs, I negotiate that I get my own office, because even though I'm over stuttering, I still don't want to do the open office thing, right? And I remember another time in Dawson Creek. So I worked at Fort St. John and Dawson Creek. They're kind of like neighbor cities, so it was kind of like the same job, right? And the internship extended, so I just started working there full time. And I remember one time with my editor, Megan, fantastic person, taught me the most fundamental things I needed to learn about photography that changed the course of my career. But I remember her watching me while I was taking a call in an open office, right? And I was trying to give the person my cell phone number, and my cell phone has a whole bunch of 8s in it, because when I got to choose my cell phone, I wanted to choose a number that had numbers that were easy for me to say. And at the time, 8 was easy. But when I was taking this call, 8 was not easy. So for literally 5 minutes, and that's a long time, like 5 minutes in a phone call, I was trying to tell this person my phone number. And it's like, I couldn't say it right. It was like 7, 7, 8, 8. Wait, is it 2 8s or 4? No, it's 7, 8. No, 8, 7, 8. And it's like they had no hope. No one had any hope. And this was before texting and emailing was a big thing. Like, we had emails, but the main thing you did was phone calls still. And that was a brutal time. And I remember Megan looking at me, like, internally cheering me on, empathizing with me, feeling my brutal pain as this 20-year-old acne-covered, shy, scared stutterer who can't talk, right? I just remember her staring at me. But, turns out I was good at journalism, and I'm still good at journalism. But of course, the stuttering was the hardest part. But the best thing is that I got burned so many times, over and over and over. Like, I told you 2 little stories, but that was every single day. Every single call was pain. Every single time I had to talk to people when I was scared of talking to them and just approach them was pain. The first times that I was in a scrum, which is where you have like 4, 5, 6 journalists all asking questions to a politician or something, and then it's your turn to ask a question, and you're like you're on a limited time, and you're trying to stutter it out. It's awful, God. It's hell. It's so awful. But it's that pain that built up the scar tissue, just getting burned and burned and burned, just beaten into the ground. That's what got me over stuttering. I got beaten so many times that it didn't matter anymore. I've been burned so many times by stuttering. I've had awful stuttering experiences and being humiliated so many times that it doesn't matter now. And that's the key. That is the huge key. And it's hard for me to even make this video because I don't believe in stutterers seeking out help to fix their stuttering, because I think that held me back. I think me trying to fix or cure my stuttering slowed me down and held me back, and it led me in the wrong directions as a person. So I tried everything. I tried hypnosis. I tried those in-ear things that like create a little echo. I remember at the time my parents drove down to Seattle through the winter in all this snow for this $5,000 thing to put in your ear. And like back then that was like 10, 15 grand in like 2 days money, right? None of it worked. I took all sorts of speech therapy and lessons. None of it worked. But what it did was it made me focus on my stuttering. It made me think that I had a problem that I had to fix. It made me think, oh, I have to talk like this. I have to find a new way to talk. I have to find a way to not stutter. And that's, I think, what held me back and slowed me down so long. And that's why I've never really jumped into, educational or aspirational or advice type of content for stutterers, because I don't know if stutterers watching that type of content will actually help them. But I do think I have a lot of good advice because I've been through it. So it's kind of the yin and the yang thing there, right? But here I am as a stutterer. I work in communications. My job is communicating what the government does to the people and taking their questions and just helping that two-way communication between the government and the people. I never thought that I would do that. I never thought that I would be here. I never thought that I would be able to answer phones, take calls, order what I want in a restaurant. I mean, the first 25 years of my life, I just ordered what was easy, right? And going through a drive-thru, it was just hell. I just ordered whatever I was able to get by with, or I'd write it down on a note and give it to the person. I've come a long, long way. It is amazing to be here. And if 18-year-old or 16-year-old me was watching this, I wouldn't believe this guy. I'd think, you sound good. You don't sound like me. You don't sound like you have a bad stutter. But I do. I've just talked so much, and I've been burned so much. I'm a little bit better at public speaking now, because I've talked so much. I've done so many interviews, thousands, tens of thousands, really. This is all just practice, but I still stutter just as much. It comes out more when I'm tired, and it just fluctuates naturally. It's going pretty well right now, but I could wake up tomorrow and hardly be able to string a sentence out. I probably won't make a YouTube video when I can hardly talk, so you don't see that side of it. I have old YouTube videos that I since either privated or deleted that are like, they're hard to watch. It's like a minute for me to try to say 5 sentences, right? But here I am. I beat stuttering. I beat it. And how did I beat it? I stopped fighting. I just stuttered. I just went on through life as a stutterer. I just kept on taking calls, giving calls, talking to people, and just stuttered. Because I always knew that no one else cared. I knew that only I cared. But that didn't change things. I care. The most important person to care is me. So it didn't change things when I knew that other people didn't care. But over time, I just did it so much that I don't care either now. Just like other people don't care. I don't care now. If it takes me an age to get to the end of the sentence, it's just part of life. If it takes someone longer to walk up a street than someone else, who cares, right? We're all different. And so I've just been burned, I've been beaten, and winning the fight was losing the fight. Winning the fight was to stop fighting. That was winning the fight. That's how I beat stuttering. I beat stuttering. Stuttering is not that universe. Stuttering is not that cloud now. My whole life was defined by this cloud, this universe as I pictured it, that was stuttering, and everything about my life was inside that cloud, that universe. I don't think about that at all now. I don't think about my speech almost at all now. I still do if I'm having a tough day and I know I've got some big calls to make. Sometimes I've run a press conference, or I've managed a scrum, and I still get nervous because everybody gets nervous, but stuttering does not own my life. I never thought I'd be here. It's crazy. I never really talk about it that much, but just to be here, just so incredible. And I hope you can get here too. And if you're a stutterer, the number one thing that I can say is to stutter and just go on. And I know it sucks and it's awful and it's humiliating and just pure pain. But even if it takes you 10 minutes to order the food that you actually want at the restaurant, please do it. I know it's awful. I know it's not the easy way out. But please do it. It'll burn. It'll hurt. God, it hurts. But you need that. You need to be hurt. You need the tough love. You need to be beaten and beaten and beaten until it doesn't hurt. And I promise you, at some point, it won't hurt. It might not be after one try. It might not be after 100 tries. It might not be after 10 years of trying. But somewhere, after you've given up hope, it will stop hurting. And you'll kind of realize, yeah, I'm just going on with life. And stuttering doesn't own me now. So I think anyone can get there. And I love you. I truly love you. As a stutterer, good luck, okay? Talk to you soon. See how this turned out.
Pop.